Wanting to keep my podcast sponsorships and advertisements free, I stayed away from such options. Instead, earlier this year, an alternative appeared. With my fiancée, we have joined a rapidly growing marketing network for a company which develops technologies and healthcare products based on traditional Chinese medicine. Instead of advertising products and services, I've decided to extend this opportunity to you. While this opportunity may not be for everyone and might still be unavailable in your country, I have no doubt that in time it could be, and therefore here we are. If you are looking for a side hustle, an alternative way of earning, and a space to grow as your own boss and manager, this program could be for you. Commission-based and fully remote, I believe it to be an opportunity for those who feel like a 9-to-5 model takes away too much of their life and isn't exactly worth their time. If you'd like to learn more, follow the link below. If your country is on the list, you're in. I look forward to working with you, and now, enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to the WS Podcast. My name is Wojciech Salski, I'll be your host for today, and before we begin, may I just remind you, if you find this podcast entertaining, useful in any way, shape or form, then please make sure to follow, subscribe and maybe share it with a friend. Basically support the podcast by putting it forward to others. And if you'd like to support the podcast in any other way, please follow the link below. There are options there. And to all of you who are supporting, either financially or just by sending me a really kind comment or an email, thank you so much. And thank you so much for listening as well. You know, it takes two to tango, as they say. And in our case, especially with those episodes when I don't have a partner to speak to, you are my partner to speak to. Essentially. So thank you for being. Now, today, I expect the episode might be a bit shorter, but let's see. I'm not promising anything. I will see where the story takes us. I have some notes on paper as per usual. I have some notes on my computer as well, which I'll just pull up now. And basically what we will do is we will discuss today the wonderful book of, it's actually in Polish, funnily enough, the Joseph Murphy's Power of Your Subconscious Mind, okay? So, I don't know, can you see it properly? This is actually nicer. So, it's quite a small book if you can see the screen. Yet again, one of those that you can easily put in your pocket. My hands, I promise, are not that big, and the book is just small. So it's quite frankly, I believe one of the older modern books treating on self-help and sort of subconscious models of thinking. It was initially published and written around 1963, so quite some time by now. We'll explore in a second what's in the book and whether or not it's the book for you. But just to maybe introduce straight away, some notes that I've prepared for you is my fiancée did not like it. She found it to be too heavy to read. Bear in mind that we both are reading a lot of books related to subconscious, treating on subconsciousness and on the models of thinking and belief and so forth, spirituality. And her argument against this book was that it was too anecdotal and too repetitive for her. So just wanted to put it out there in case some of you don't want to read such a book as well. But when it comes to the advantages, I would say, to the book, and especially from that perspective, I do believe that there is a reason for its anecdotal nature and the basically repetitive mentioning of the themes throughout the book. And I think that's mostly the same kind of model that I think was pervasive for quite a while in self-help books of the recent, let's say, decades. Similarly to Think and Grow Rich, if you remember, and I'll put the link below to our episode about that book, where I think the repetitive nature is there to let these ideas be subconsciously taken in. Remember that the readers and the target audience for the book by Joseph Murphy initially were people in a very different time. And even though we would consider them to be living in modern era, there wasn't any internet. The pervasiveness of information was not nearly as intense as it is right now. And I do believe that since people read more books and spent more time, dealing with the written word, I do believe it is for that reason that the outline and the whole structure of the book is fairly repetitive. There are many anecdotes, parables and stories from real life and historical depictions and reviews of historic data, some research being done beforehand, some ancient wisdoms all throughout the book. And I believe it's the same reason as in Think and Grow Rich. So the reader would again and again be reminded of the main point. And obviously there are a few. I've prepared five of them to share with you today. And, if you've listened to the episode from last week, or if you've listened to the episode from Think and Grow Rich, or about 7 spiritual laws of success, you might actually find that this episode is a repetitive one. Because especially when it comes to becoming supernatural or breaking the habits of being yourself, which is another of the episodes where we've done recently, which treated from Joe Dispenza's work, which treated on the subconscious. These themes you'll recognize. If anything, I feel like Joe Dispenza, apart from making it much more science-driven with his own research being conducted, he definitely, and I assume he would agree, has built upon these findings and observations made by Joseph Murphy, Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, Jim Rohn, Napoleon Hill, and so forth throughout the years. So yeah, I guess we can give it a start. As I said, the book itself is fairly small, and it was, I assume, still fairly popular. It was a bestseller at the time. Nowadays, I feel like there are many more books to choose from when it comes to self-help and work with subconscious, which is also why some of you might like the anecdotal nature of this one and choose it, and some of you might prefer a more analytical, logical, science-driven one by Joe Dispenza, for example. So let's give it a start. And I was thinking whether or not to record this episode, because if you think about it, since we're going to be discussing similar themes that what we've done recently, I was thinking, am I actually giving you new valuable information? And then I thought about this repetitiveness, and I thought, well, it's still a wonderful book. It's definitely worth checking out, especially if you're into these topics. And I do believe it won't hurt us both to revisit some of these ideas simply from maybe some other angles. I'll try to make some new discoveries for you and ideas, and decided let's go for it anyway. And since this month's, I guess, season's theme is mostly about health, well-being, and subconsciousness, spirituality maybe, then I thought it's only fair to try it out anyway. So our first and foremost, of course, really, really big part of the The book is, of course, the talk about the subconsciousness itself. So the statement, the quote from the book that I've chosen is, "Whatever your conscious mind assumes and believes to be true, your subconscious mind will accept and bring to pass." So if you remember what we've discussed before, if you consider the process of your experiencing of life as an equation of thoughts plus emotions plus potentially some external stimuli which either started this equation or are a part of it in the middle or by the end of it, that is where your personal experience and so your personality, personal reality is formed, and this is what you experience as a conscious being. Let's say if you do consider yourself to be a spiritual being having a human experience, then what your subconscious mind is and represents is sort of like a back-end software maybe running in the background, rendering all of it that is happening and both influencing your conscious actions as well as being influenced heavily by your conscious actions. And of course, all the things that are happening around you and how you react to them. And that this is crucial. We've discussed when we talked about Think and Grow Rich and when we talked about The Body Keeps the Score, that it is not so much, David Hawkins talks about the same thing as well in his book Letting Go. It is not so much a matter of what happens to you, but it is the matter of how you perceive and react to what happens to you that determines your level of satisfaction, your outcome, and how you will overcome or come victorious out of these situations, or fall into despair and be affected negatively and potentially even spiral into states that you wouldn't want to be in. Just because you're feeling fear doesn't mean that you have to let that fear overwhelm you and have a panic attack. Similarly, just because you are experiencing something that could give you joy doesn't mean that you will be joyous, because you could potentially, through not beneficial programming of your own, maybe some limiting beliefs, or through your attitude of cynicism, or simply being, not sensitive enough to recognize, to feel that joy, you might let it pass. And similarly, in that case, whatever happens around you, whatever people say to you, do to you, won't matter as much as how you go about it. And this is really powerful, this idea that if we are in charge of our conscious mind to a degree, in those moments that the decision making is made, which are constantly happening, I am constantly choosing what to say next, you are constantly choosing what to focus your attention on, as long as we allow ourselves to widen that gap between the stimulus and response. And if you remember, this is exactly what we've discussed again and again when talking about David Hawkins' work, that meditation essentially, or any sort of contemplative practice, aims to widen this gap between stimulus and response. And if you widen it and you dwell within it, you create for yourself a space to make a more skillful, more conscious decision about how to react. So, for example, if someone sends a negative energy towards you by offending you, or, flipping you off on the street, as long as you stay composed and don't allow that person's activity to let you offend you, as long as you don't get worked up and sort of react by mirroring their energy back onto them, you have not given up your conscious and subconscious, quite frankly, power to react, right? So this is what the Buddhist teachings again and again, or this is how I understand as well the Bible's invitation to turn the other cheek, right? The Jesus's invitation to turn the other cheek. That as long as you don't give in to whatever the person or the situation is throwing at you, you are still in control, and that might mean essentially that you disarm them. If someone is shouting offensive words at you, but you don't get fazed by it, you've just disarmed them. You have not allowed them to take the energy from you that they tried to take by sending that signal to you. And if you consider this to be the basis for what Joseph Murphy here says by whatever your conscious mind assumes and believes to be true, your subconscious mind will accept and bring to pass. The moment you don't assume what the person said about you is true and you don't believe it to be true, your subconscious mind is getting a signal that that's not real. And so you're reinforcing sovereignty over your state of being, essentially, which I find to be very powerful. Not to say that, by now, even having practiced it for quite some time, I don't get fazed. Of course I do. It is a long and laborious journey to be able to stay stoic in any situation. And I think especially with our loved ones, the challenge is even greater because they know which buttons to push. And we have so many past experiences to sort of to bring back from our subconscious mind when those situations happen to trigger us to act. That it is a laborious, I think, lifelong journey. But remember, your subconscious mind does not judge what happens. And in the same way that something good can happen, which will make you feel great, and obviously, as we remember from last year, your emotion sort of supercharges this experience, making a bigger imprint onto your memory, onto your body, onto your psyche. Your subconscious mind only reflects it as if that is what is true, whatever you've decided to give attention to. So in moments of challenge, in situations that are maybe out of your control but are really difficult, the first invitation that Joseph Murphy puts across in his work is you are in charge as long as you wish to be in charge of what to do about it. And by staying in charge of your own emotional state, by practicing acceptance and sort of going inwards and widening this gap between the stimulus and response, you're strengthening your beliefs and your subconscious powers that might essentially render what is happening around you not as effective to you as it could potentially. And of course, this is where Stoicism and the ideas from Stoicism, which I will just put the link below as well, to Marcus Aurelius's Meditations book, which obviously is a story in and of itself. It's a catalog of his of the Caesar's memories and ideas and thoughts, and he was a known Stoic, and he reminded himself often that whatever happens to him is not what will affect him, it's his decision that affects him. So remember, just to drive this point home, as an echo of Joe Dispenza's work, and as we are here now today, remember that thoughts mixed with strong emotions is what will determine your state of being. So if you find yourself falling into reminiscing about some difficult situations that happened in the past, or worrying about the future, you're sending these thoughts and emotions as signals to your subconscious mind, making them feel real. And since your subconscious mind does not discern between what is real right now in this room, for example, and what is real right now in this head, over time this can be a struggle for you. So be aware and be wary. Stand guard at the doors to your mind, as I think Jim Rohn has said beautifully. So let's leave it at that, and let's talk about belief, and we'll tie it all together in a second. So one thing that I wanted to share as well, something that helped me over the years is actually from Deepak Chopra's work. I've discovered this wonderful Sanskrit phrase, I guess, or a mantra called Aham Brahmasmi, which basically means the core of my being is the ultimate reality. And recently, as I've been practicing meditation more intensively, I have some time on my hands to really dedicate myself to it, and I've been trying to do it for a while. It helps me with my logical mind and trying to visualize it for myself. It helps me to imagine that everything that happens in the world is within me. Wherever you'll place it, you can place it in your brain, you can place it in your heart, you can place it in whatever in your body. It doesn't matter really. It seems to me like something that makes sense to comprehend these teachings and ideas better, because I don't know where my subconscious mind is. So I just placed it in my heart. I guess I'm more of a heart as a center person than brain as a center person, and it doesn't matter really. But by placing it there, I can place my attention there when I'm meditating, and I can sort of visualize the world being within there, being sort of sucked in from the outside, understanding, experiencing it as it is, and then refining it or maybe reshaping it within me and sending out what I would like the world to be, which I guess lies at the core of many loving gratitude and optimistic meditations. So just a beautiful idea here from Sanskrit for you. The core of my being is the ultimate reality. Whatever you consider to be the core of your existence, that's what the Sanskrit says is the ultimate reality. Although the reality we also don't often notice because we're so entangled in this physical, three-dimensional world, right? So in terms of belief, as we discussed before, the big part of belief is you might not have evidence for it. Faith is false evidence. Fear is false evidence appearing real, they say. And I think faith is something similar, but in a space of, without evidence, I have faith because I believe that to be of highest value or that being true. And the invitation from Joseph Murphy throughout his book is basically, in essence, this quote: change your thoughts and you change your destiny, right? Change your thoughts, change your emotions, change your destiny. Change your world by changing yourself. These are the core ideas, the core beliefs that are being sent through this wonderful little book to us and many others, actually. So if you think of belief as the bridge between our conscious and the subconscious, you can, for example, for me, it made sense when I thought about why people pray. I personally don't necessarily pray. I contemplate, meditate, and visualize, but I would consider that to be prayer in essence, because the way I understand prayer seems to be like a an intentional sending of attention, energy, wishes and desires and whatnot, gratitude, emotions, into this higher states of consciousness, which potentially could be our subconscious mind or God, the universe, higher power, whatever, ether, whatever you believe it. Yet again, a belief is strengthened by emotions, right? If you have an unwavering belief in something, you are much more powerful with that belief than someone who just about believes in something. This is, I think, well portrayed when people stand, when two fighters stand in the octagon to fight. I recently listened to one of Joe Rogan's podcasts he discussed the what makes a great fighter with Matthew McConaughey, the actor, of course, and they discussed that essentially it is so primal what these men do when they stand eye to eye and essentially are trying to kill one another. Of course, there is a way of making sure that they don't fully destroy one another, but in essence, that's what they're trying to do. And Joe made a point that a huge part of it comes down to their attitude about the fight, whether they are fully committed and fully believe in their likelihood of success, and whether they don't. And so, for example, this is, I think, the quote that again and again resonated throughout my youthful life and still does. I just remember it, if you were to wake me up in the middle of the night, I would just recite it, no problem. He who says he can and he who says he can't are both usually right. Supposedly it's ascribed to Confucius. I don't have any proof. I guess the proof is in the pudding, whether or not that's the real quote originator. But he who says he can and he who says he can't are both usually right is essentially this power of belief. If you believe you will become better at something, you're likely to become better at something quicker than someone who's sending the negative signals to their own subconscious and to the world. Essentially, if you consider all energy and thought to be vibrations, then I guess the best example to put here, something that you have experienced for sure before, is if you've ever met someone, whether in your intimate life of dating or as a friend or at your uni, at school, at work, whatever, at a retreat, sometimes you meet a person that for whatever reason doesn't seem genuine. And of course, some people are very good at pretending, and so it is not as easy. But some people, even though they might be fairly good at it pretending, because of their pretending that they're doing, this non-genuine nature of their activity, maybe they are claiming to be good at something, maybe they pretend to be from somewhere, maybe they pretend to be someone, it just seeps through their energy, their emotional state, maybe the way they behave, they carry themselves. It is very difficult to fake being confident. Of course, they say fake it till you make it. You can become confident by visualizing it, internalizing it, taking away those limiting beliefs, maybe getting confident by becoming better at doing something. That's the healthiest way. But I often find that with some people, just something doesn't seem right. And even though I might not be able to put my finger on it, I do believe that it's this energy meddled up, not being fully genuine, that seeps through. Because even though we are so entangled in our material world these days that we don't, we stopped being intuitive to the degree that we could have been, or we have been when we lived in the woods, being in sync with nature at all times, and being much more sharp in terms of our sight, hearing, and so forth. I think that's what seeps through, because our instincts are still there. They just got a bit shunned because of all the stimuli, all the screens, all the fake lighting and so forth. But I do believe this is the space where our subconsciousness is playing a part in recognizing what is going on. And I guess just be aware that, if you're trying to fake it till you make it, some people being a bit more in touch with reality might notice it. And so potentially it's best if you base your belief on thoughts, emotions, visualizing, but actually then doing what you're visualizing and becoming better at it. And also become more aware of your own instincts about it. Maybe more often, this is an invitation from Joseph Murphy to be more in tune with how people make you feel. When you're encountering someone for the first time, try to, almost like a scientist, try to observe and feel into how does that person make you feel. What are the readings that you get from this experience. And of course, one more thing, as we discussed recently with James Clear's book Atomic Habits, belief in yourself, I would say, is very similar to your identity. And so if you believe yourself to be an athletic and sporty person, and you act, and with your actions, you show the world and yourself again and again that you do practice sports, you are athletic, you are a sporty person, you're strengthening this part of your subconsciousness and this part of your existence. And so that belief becomes entrenched and strengthened. And then you will feel much more capable of participating in a sporty event than someone who doesn't do it, even if they were trying to believe themselves to be a sporty person. There has to be thought, emotion, action, and reinforcement of that process for you to become and to identify with it. But you can switch that process around, as we discussed recently, and by identifying with these states you want to embody, empower and basically accelerate your process of change. Now, let's talk about visualization again. So we've discussed it when we talked about breaking the habits of being yourself, and we've discussed it when we talked about becoming supernatural. We've discussed it when we talked about letting go. We've discussed it when we talked about 7 spiritual laws of success. Essentially, this is at the root of all self-help, spiritual focused, subconscious focused teachings, right? To mentally rehearse what you want the world to become for you, right? So the quote here is, "Your subconscious mind cannot distinguish between actual reality and vividly imagined experiences." There is this crazy thing that we've discovered, and by now it's well researched, that your mind, especially your subconscious mind, does not know the difference between you sitting down with your eyes closed and imagining yourself playing the piano and actually playing the piano. If you go deep, relaxed, and take some time to put your attention and energy, because as we know, where your attention goes, energy flows. If you put your attention, place your attention in this experience that you're imagining, you're essentially priming your subconscious mind to think as if that is what's going on. And yet again, please let us not be hasty to assume that all I need to do to become better at, I don't know, playing the piano is sit down each day and imagine playing the piano, never actually learning how to play the piano. That's not how it works, right? You might find, if you were to do a brain scan, that just by practicing playing the piano in your head, visualizing it, there were some connections being made in your brain that were not there before, which essentially is what happens when your new neural pathways are firing and wiring together. But for any of these practice focused visualizations to become a part of your real life, I would urge you to also start learning the basics, right? Basically doing in the real world what you need to do, and then on top of that supercharge these processes of change by visualizing them, by embodying them within yourself and taking time to visualize your success. And the one thing that again and again I've heard from professional athletes, people of success in media, people of success in business, is this idea from also the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right? From this book. Again and again, the super let me just write it down. The super successful people, what they do is they take their time in the morning often or at night to go within and to internalize, to visualize, to empower the kind of person they want to become, the kind of activity, the kind of success they want to have. This, yet again, does not mean that they don't do what is needed to go towards that future. They try, but they place much more attention within and in this unified field, the subconscious mind, than an average person who simply does not know about it. Because I don't know about you, but I've never heard about having a subconscious mind until I started reading about it myself. And I think for good reason. I don't think schools these days, or at any day really, were made to train us to be successful at these, in this knowledge, in these things. It's what separates almost people that are aware from people that are not aware, that those that are aware are taking action in the spaces that those that aren't aware don't. So, remember that, as Joe Dispenza pointed out, your future self already exists. Time is infinite. There is no time or time is infinite. Either of the two works for this reason. It's simply that we, in our bodily state of awareness, in our conscious state, we perceive time as a linear sort of passage of this infinite moment. But as Joe Dispenza pointed out, and it's certainly echoed, and you can see even on the cover of the book, the ripple effect, what the work with subconscious and the visualization does is, as we go outside of our physical bodily state of space-time, and we go within, and we connect to the subconscious, which doesn't know what is time. It simply is. In that space, we can bring forth and attract, essentially prime ourselves, prime our bodies, prime our mind to attract and embody the kind of person, the kind of experience, the kind of thing, the kind of whatever we wish for, right? We essentially prime ourselves to see the future happen before it does. And this is what visualization does in a nutshell. Now, a huge part of it, and this actually is yet again related so closely to the other books that I find myself chuckling when I was preparing this episode. I find myself chuckling that, I seem to be repeating as much as Joe Murphy seems in his book, and my fiancée probably wouldn't like that. Apparently, when we go into those heightened subconscious space states, in the same way as in letting go, we know from that map of consciousness we've discussed last week, and we've discussed in the episodes about books by David Hawkins, higher states of energy have higher vibration, and that higher vibration, especially the positive vibration of love, let's say love, reason, gratitude especially, these higher states can ripple stronger sort of force field around us. And what Joe Dispenza pointed out as well, they can sort of cause our expression of genes and essentially our bodies to change. So this is very similar to what we've discussed last week. Apparently, Joseph Murphy points out again and again, by going into these states of heightened awareness, by going within, people can heal by shifting their physical or emotional ailments. They basically change their subconscious patterns, and since they change their subconscious patterns, maybe they stop believing that they are so-and-so. Let's say that they stop believing that they are traumatized, or they stop believing they are depressed, or they stop believing they are ill. They heal almost instantaneously. And of course, this sounds absurd to someone who has not experienced this before, and that is fair. But if anything, maybe it's a trigger invitation for you to try and experience it by simply putting in the practice every morning and going into those heightened states, becoming no one, nowhere, becoming the awareness, observing the awareness, and just see. After a month or two, you'll know whether or not you see some results, and I wouldn't be surprised if you do. The quote for this theme is, "The law of life is the law of belief. The belief of your mind is the thought of your mind." So if your mind believes that, that you have depression and you're struggling with this state, and you're feeling low emotions, so you're rewiring yet again and strengthening these loops of low vibration thought plus low emotion equals low state of being. Low vibration thought plus low emotion equals low state of being. You're reinforcing this loop. You're empowering this belief to be true. And so it is, right? And then, of course, it sounds easier said than done, but if you were to practice thinking high thoughts of gratitude, of health, of well-being, maybe if you're feeling ill and you don't feel like it's genuine to feel gratitude for being healthy, maybe you have something else that you could feel grateful for. I bet you do. Anyone have something. There is I do believe, a really small percentage of people in the world that have nothing whatsoever to be grateful for. And I would say even the mere fact that you can listen to this episode is already something to be grateful for, because many people won't be able to do so. So if you have that thought of gratitude and you connect it to the emotion of gratitude, a genuine embodied emotion of gratitude, you will create a state of gratitude, a state of being that is higher. And if you do that again and again, if you practice it, maybe by writing your gratitude journal, maybe by taking 5 minutes each day, sitting down, closing your eyes and just thinking of things that you're grateful for and feeling that gratitude emanate in your body, in your heart or in your head, wherever you want to place it, you will see over time that these loops strengthen, and you are more likely to have that thought, to have that emotion, and to have that experience. And so you're either you can use this nature of thought, emotion, and state of being to spiral down with your life state or spiral up. It will take some work, but it's definitely worth it. And if you remember from the book by Bessel van der Kolk, The Body Keeps the Score, that your body reflects the mental and emotional state. By shifting your mental and emotional state, you can start affecting your body. And this is exactly what Joe Dispenza's work echoes, and certainly Joseph Murphy's anecdotal examples also offer. It's by changing your thought plus emotion pattern and changing your state of being, you are changing yourself over time. And if you remember that roughly every 6 months, each cell in your body is rejuvenated or changed or discarded depending on the state of the cell, then I wouldn't be surprised if it takes you 6 months and you're healed from whatever you're dealing with through a really genuine, powerful process of heightening your level of subconscious state of mind, right? And now finally, of course, just to drive this point home, according to Joseph Murphy and all of the others that we've discussed, gratitude, prayer, and higher state of consciousness is what helps us to align with higher energy levels and then emanate a higher frequency into the universe. Essentially, we've talked about it before on a few different levels, but if you want to attract an attractive person into your life, maybe you'd like to start dating someone, you should first and foremost become an attractive person, right? It's like a magnet. I can actually say, very happy news that I found. One of my further family members, we've discussed with her a while back, I think a month ago, this idea. She said something in between the lines of like, I cannot find a partner, all the boys out there, all the men out there that I'm meeting and dating, something's always wrong. Maybe it's about their language, maybe it's about their opinions, maybe it's about their moral codes, maybe it's about the way they want to spend their time, their humor, their whatever. There's always a problem, right? And she kept saying, all the different things that are not working out. And I sort of listened for a while, and then I stopped and I told her first and foremost what I believe brought me and my fiancée together. But then I also said something in between the lines of like, it seems like you're focusing a lot on them. It seems like you're finding a lot of faults in them. And my question to you is, what about you? Are there any faults of yours that you could maybe first clean up before you criticize the world, as an echo, I guess, of Peterson's work? And then I said one more thing. What kind of man would you want? Because if you're spending a lot of time dwelling on the problems that you're finding with men around you, essentially what you're doing is you're sending signals into the universe subconsciously that this is the kind of men that you want in your life, right? Because if you pair a thought of a faulty relationship with an emotion of disappointment, and that creates the state of being you are in that moment, and that is being again and again reinforced by yet another and yet another and yet another example of a bad, weak, unsuitable relationship, but that's exactly what you're, sending out. Those are exactly the frequencies that you're sending out into the universe. And so you're getting more of it. You're reinforcing the loop, and your subconscious is finding reasons why that's true, why you're right. And I said, just take a moment, sit down for an hour and write down what kind of a man you'd like, and then write down what kind of a person would it take for you to be to attract that man, for that man to think of you as an attractive partner. And let me just be transparent here. I don't know if she actually did that practice, but I did speak to her literally, I think, yesterday, and I was really happy to hear that she actually found someone in the meantime. And it seems like it's a great match, a great guy, great morals, similar points of views, very funny and charming. And I said something in between the lines of like, well, it sounds like it worked. And she said, yeah, it's really wonderful to think positively. And she does, I think, I hope. I will ask her next time I speak with her. I do think it is a big part due to her shift of attention, right? Shifting the attention from what wasn't working to what would work, and from who was at fault to what can she do about it? What could she do about it? And this is essentially why we're speaking about working with our subconscious mind, right? So the quote on this point is, fill your mind with the great truths of life and walk forward in the light of love. Your energy levels, your openness, your expression of love, gratitude, kindness, any of those really, really high energetically driven states is what will help you create the kind of world, the kind of life you wish to embody. There is no point in going to the gym to get stronger if all of the time as you're going to the gym you're telling yourself you don't want to go and you will not get stronger because you always were weak and so forth. You're working against yourself in those moments. You're sending mixed signals. It's the same as with a relationship. No one wants to be in a relationship with someone who on one hand is saying I love you and on the other hand is acting out as if they don't and hurting the partner again and again. And I would say it is very straightforward and simple in terms of our everyday life. Whatever you want to have more of in your life, become the kind of person that more of will come to. If you want to have more love, give love to others. If you want to have more wealth, become an abundant person. Stop saying to yourself, I cannot afford something, or I cannot get paid more, or this pay what I'm getting is not enough. Become grateful for the money that is flowing in for you right now. Visualize that the world has more to offer for you, and also think, what can I give in exchange? This is basically the main point of Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. That by becoming more attractive person to the market, by becoming more valuable to the marketplace, you can attract more wealth. I think, it's very easy and quite cynical, in my opinion, to look at a billionaire out there, a tech millionaire, or someone who's really successful in any business of a sort, and say, oh, that person, they have it so easy, they have so much money, they should share, and they are so evil for tricking so many people, and so they have so much money. And of course, I bet that some people out there have had to trick others to get money, but many, if not the majority of successful business people out there created so much value to others out of anything. Maybe they made great shoes, or maybe they made great rockets, or maybe they made great books. But by giving that value out, by sending that energy out, they attracted tenfold or thousandfold of energy back to them. It is for a reason why in basically, I would say, almost all spiritual teachings of the world, there seems to be a theme of do unto others as you would wish to be done to you, and sort of the law of dharma, the law of karma, giving out the energy you want to get is the best way of getting the energy you want to get. And similarly, not reacting to the kind of energy you don't want to embrace and empower is the other side of the same coin, right? If someone's offending you on the street, just walk off. Don't worry, smile, disarm them with it. And by rewiring yourself and your subconscious mind to react in those ways, you will over time naturally react in those ways. You'll literally create new neural connections, new patterns, and you will become a new state of being. So, yeah. I expected this episode to be shorter. I hope it was fun. So in terms of the invitation for this week, I've offered you some ideas, but my most, I think, essential invitation to work with would be that yet again this very small, short meditation, 5 to 10 minutes. You can make it 20 or 30 if you want. I do it for about an hour, but it doesn't have to be an hour. It's completely up to you. This gratitude, loving meditation, right? So you can do it in multiple forms. The one that I will suggest is the easiest for me. Simply, as you wake up, as soon as you wake up and you brush your teeth, but maybe don't shower just yet, so you don't wake yourself up fully. You stay in that, sort of state between being fully awake and being asleep. Sit up straight in a chair, or sit down with your legs cross-legged on the floor or on a cushion on bed, and close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. Focus on your breath, sort of quieten yourself a little bit, and then just focus your attention either on your heart or on your mind, maybe somewhere in the body, whatever feels right for you. And bring up 5 to 10 to 20 to 1,000 of things, places, people, ideas, experiences that you're grateful for, or that you could be grateful for in that moment. To start with, I think it will be easier to work with what you are already grateful for rather than what you're grateful for because it's going to happen. But of course, you can then take it to the next level by maybe mixing it up. So, for example, you can start by listing that you're grateful for your dog and imagining your dog with you, feeling that energy of gratitude wherever you've decided to feel it. Then you can say that you're grateful for the roof over your head that you have, and yet again, feel how does it feel to be grateful. Internalize that emotion, match that thought and emotion into the state of being. And then, if you want to go a bit crazy with it, you can imagine maybe you're ahead of some difficult exam that you would be really grateful for to pass. So you imagine, what does that feel? How would that look like to pass the exam? Maybe you're having a high five with your friend. Maybe you're visualizing an email from your teacher saying, well done on your assignment. Or maybe it's your loved one hugging you and saying, I knew you could always do it. And yet again, feel that emotion and embody it. And this is essentially what you're doing. You're priming your subconscious mind for these emotions of gratitude, and you're raising your level of frequency. You're raising your energy state. And please, please, please try it for some time. Ideally, try it for a few months. Don't give up after 2 days. Try it, work with it, basically train your body to be your obedient servant rather than your boss, which many of us unfortunately have in their lives, and see what happens. And if you do, please let me know. Send an email, maybe in a few months time, tell me that was great, or I struggled with that, and this is what I learned, and so forth. Other than that, yet again, please, if you haven't already, click subscribe button on your platform, wherever you are. If you'd like to support the podcast, find the link below. See if you'd like to support by following any social media, by sending me a thank you message, by supporting it financially, buying me a coffee or whatever you want to. And thank you so much for listening. I'm truly grateful to be here. I hope that this episode was worth your while. Let's see what happens next week. Other than that, have a wonderful week. Stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll see you next time.